are probably currently feeling overwhelmed and anxious about leaving your child with a stranger, you were wondering, am I making the right decision? What if I'm also going to be a victim of all the nanny horror stories I've heard? Is my child going to like the nanny? And you also probably consumed by guilt. In this installment, I'm going to talk about how you can prepare before you going back to work after maternity leave. I specifically want to talk about the benefits of hiring a nanny while you are still pregnant in your third trimester. And because I know that not everyone can hire a nanny while they are pregnant for various reasons, I also want to talk about what you can do if you hire a nanny a few days or weeks just before you go back to work to help you ease your mind and prepare better. A friend of mine gave birth to a premature baby last year. In fact, her baby just turned 1 a few weeks ago. She is the cutest thing ever. So she was carrying well when she was pregnant. She did not have any major complications during her pregnancy. So she did not anticipate giving birth 6 weeks before her due date. So luckily she hired a nanny when she was about 30 weeks pregnant, and then 2 weeks later she gave birth. Her hiring a nanny at the time benefited her a lot as she had a 5-year-old also. And the great thing was that by the time she gave birth, her 5-year-old was used to the nanny and they got along fine, which was a huge stress reliever for my friend. So I would highly recommend that you consider hiring a nanny in your last trimester, especially if you have a toddler. I remember when I also had my last born at the time, we were with our nanny at the time for about 2 years. I did not stress about my daughter who was 3 at the time, and there was a bit of consistency in her life as our nanny was very helpful. Another benefit is that you will get to assess if the nanny is the right fit for your family before you head back to work. So with my friend, the nanny that she hired just before she gave birth, she realized that she was not going to be a right fit for her kids in the long term. And she made the decision to let her go and get another nanny who was more suitable for her needs at the time. And she did this and was able to adjust with the new nanny just before she went to work. Another benefit is that you will be able to adjust your expectations and get to see the challenges that your nanny might face and be able to have solutions to ensure that the environment that your nanny will be working at is going to be conducive for her and your newborn. At times, we tend to either over or underestimate our nanny's jobs, and when you take the time to see what nannies go through on a day-to-day basis, you will get to appreciate and respect the role that they play in your kid's life. Another benefit is that you will have sufficient time to do interviews and not hire from making rash decisions, because making rash decisions will contribute to you feeling anxious about leaving your nanny, quote unquote, with a stranger before you head back to work. And you will have time to attend to compliance issues like contracts, registering your nanny for UIF, and compensation fund. You will also have time to understand your nanny's personality and character and have a game plan on how you are going to manage their performance. You can check out our previous episode where I go into detail about guiding you on how you can manage your nanny's performance. So another reason that will be beneficial is that you will get to minimize the risk of having postnatal depression, as you will have help and adjust into motherhood and bonding with your newborn without stressing a lot about other things that the nanny will take care of in the household. I remember when I gave birth in 2018, it was the same year when my marriage was on the rocks. In fact, I filed for divorce while I was pregnant, and by the time I gave birth, we were separated. I remember the first 3 days, my milk was not coming out because of stress. And so imagine if I did not have a nanny, I would have probably had severe postnatal depression, And as I've mentioned, it is not everyone that can hire a nanny while they are on maternity leave. And they can only hire a nanny in the first month when they get back to work, because of various reasons. It's not all gloom and doom if you decide that you are going to hire a nanny in the first month of going back to work, because there are certain things that you can do to help you prepare and manage this process better. The first thing is that you can use the time when you are on maternity leave to do thorough research about hiring a nanny and managing a nanny. And you should also use the time to do interviews. The last thing that you want to do is not plan and make very rash decisions, because that is going to make you even more anxious, and it might affect the way you are going to manage your nanny, because you might not trust that they are going to do a better job. And usually when people have trust issues, they end up micromanaging people, and no one likes to be micromanaged. So to avoid that, just plan better. And as you are planning better, it will also be very ideal to track your baby's routine and give your nanny a proper handover when she starts, so that your baby's routine is going to remain consistent when you head back to work. So you must give your nanny a very clear schedule. They must not start and have to figure things out by themselves, as that might interrupt the baby's routine. Another thing that you can do is have a family member coming through to assist you with the nanny, say a few days or weeks, because in that way you will have a second opinion if the nanny is the right fit for your family or not. Another thing that you can do is you can invest in a nanny camera. However, you need to note that having a nanny camera is not to spy on the nanny or anticipate that there is something wrong that the nanny will do. Nanny cameras are designed for you to keep progress of your baby, and your nanny must be aware that there is a nanny camera in the house. And your nanny must be aware that there is a nanny camera in the house. And if you're dealing with mom guilt, I think you should acknowledge and embrace these feelings. We often don't want to be vulnerable to the people we are leading, because we are conditioned that it is a sign of weakness, and when you are weak, people will take advantage of you. And this is not entirely true. Vulnerability can be your superpower if done correctly. Being vulnerable and articulating your feelings about mom guilt to your nanny can work in your favor. If you are going to call them 8 times in a day because you have to adjust your mind in work mode, and you are worrying if you made the right decision by hiring a nanny, your nanny will understand where you're coming from, because you would have communicated your feelings. They won't feel like you don't trust them. So embrace vulnerability. We are not meant to walk this journey by ourselves, and I hope you will get to be at peace with this if you are currently in conflict with yourself about getting help. And that is it for this installment. If you're currently feeling anxious about hiring a nanny and you are preparing to go back to work from maternity leave, let me know in the comments. And if you want to add on some tips that I did not touch on, let us know in the comments how you navigated the transition from when you came from maternity leave to going back to work. Until the next episode, take care.